Salvete Discipuli. This is Magister Sears, and we are looking at Chapter 2 of your textbook, Latin for the first of the Millennium here. Here's the translation at the beginning of Chapter 2. It's about the Millenium family, and you can read up here the background on this. Messinio is a slave, and he says, Pro Jupiter quid video? By Jupiter, what do I see? Quid means what here? And Menaechmus Sophocles, who's one of the twins, says, what do you see? Quid via, second person. So you have first person video, ending in O, second person singular, ending in S. Messinio, Messinio, pointing at Menaechmus, says, this man has your appearance. Hic formam tuam habet. And Menaechmus Sophocles says, what story are you telling me? Quam fabula mihi naras. Again, second person singular. And Messinio says, I'm not telling stories. Fabulas non narro. You ought to see for yourself. Tu videre debes. Now you can go to the vocabulary on the opposite page there to see the meaning of all these words. And Menaechmus Sophocles says, Popeye, addressing Menaechmus, how do they call you? And we'll look up Popeye there in the vocabulary there. How do they call you? We would say, what's your name? Menaechmus says, they call me Menaechmus. And Menaechmus Sophocles, his twin brother, says, you're telling stories. In other words, you don't say. Fabulas naras. They also call me Menaechmus. And Messinio says they are like two drops of water. Duai gutai. Here you have a predicate nominative. Menaechmus Sophocles says, what's your country? What country do you have? Quam patriam. That's country there. And let me see if I can come down here a little bit more. And it's keeping my size good. And Menaechmus says, I'm Syracusan. That's on the island of Sicily. And Menaechmus Sophocles, says, I also live there. Ego quoque ibi habito, first person. Therefore, you're my brother. Itaque tu es frater meus. Again, a predicate nominative. Hello, my brother. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Do means for a long time. And Menaechmus says, hello, my brother. Now we ought to live with our father. Cum patre habitare. And habitare here is a complementary infinitive going with debemus. And we were going to look up Popeye here because it looks like it has an unusual meaning. And it's what? Popeye, wow. Wow. Popeye. So it's like an exclamation, isn't it? Okay. And then you have your comprehension questions. Each chapter is sort of set up the same way. It begins with a translation, and then it has the comprehension here. What happens between the two Menaechmi? Who is the first to notice? And you'll have tests on both of those, the translation. And we have language facts in each lesson. Talks about a conjugation, and conjugation is a family of verbs that all do the same thing. There's 4 conjugations, and in this chapter you're going to learn the first and second. Verbs have principal parts. They do in English too, and they have their stem from the second principal part. You cut off the RE there. There will always be an RE. And that gives you the principal part's job is to give you the stems. Same in English. The first principal part is the first person singular verb form, and you can read all this here. And basically it's telling you that to say I do something, you don't need to say the word I, but the verb ends in O. That's sort of like the word I there. They do the same in Spanish. Narro, narrare, narravi, narratum. There's the 4 principal parts. And you get your stem by dropping the RE off here, nada. And that's what you add your personal endings to. Habio, I have, second conjugation. All second conjugations will have a long E before the RE here, and all first conjugations will have an A before the RE. And it tells you to look at that RE, and it reveals the conjugation to which the verb belongs. Remember, A, first conjugation, long E, second. And they give you some tips here which you can read. And please do not be afraid to email me for any questions you may have regarding Chapter 2. Determine the conjugation of each verb by looking at the vowel. So here you have second, first, first, second, first, second. That was easy, wasn't it? Okay, and here's your vocabulary to learn. And they do it by parts of speech. Make flashcards. Go to Walgreens and get some index cards. Put Latin on the one side and English on the other. When you put your Latin, remember to put the nominative, genitive, and gender. And verbs, put all 4 principal parts. And then on the other side, you put to love. And then we have an exercise 2 down here. These exercises are all through the chapter. You're used to them now. Find English derivatives here. We may or may not do that, but there you are. Properties of verbs, number and person. Verbs have number. They have singular and plural. That's all there is to that. And verbs have person, first, second, third. First, second, third, plural. Excuse me. My summer cold continues into the fall. So I is your first person, singular. We is first person, plural. You, second person, singular. Or you, plural, second person, plural. He, she, or it is the third person, singular. You're talking about somebody. And they is the third person, plural form for the third person, plural. Okay, and they talk about the word am here, which can replace the O ending for the first person, singular. Here's exercise 3, the person and number. Here you go by OST, mustis, NT. So this would be second person, singular, second person, singular, third person, singular, second person, singular, second person, singular, first person, plural, third person, plural, and first person, singular. Or excuse me, third person, singular. He or she loves. Here we have these language facts again, right here. Tense and stem. The tense of the verb indicates what time the verb is happening, and there's 6 tenses in Latin, but we're just learning the present tense right now. And the stem, the present stem comes from the second principal part of the verb by removing the RE. And it continues talking about that on the next page here. Okay, so far so good. My screen is behaving. Okay, here's your first conjugation, all 6 persons, singular and plural. Here's your second conjugation, all 6 persons, singular and plural. It gives a model verb there, paro and teneo. It gives the English and Latin. Pronouns are optional, so you won't see them very often. And when you translate verbs, you can translate I prepare, I do prepare, I am preparing. And that's all included in the word paro. Paras, parat, and down here. Okay, and then we have exercise 4. You have 3 translations for each one. Well, this would be you call, you are calling, you do call. He sees, he is seeing, he does see. So we have 3 translations in English for just one Latin word. Here's exercise 5. Choose one of 3 ways to translate these verbs. You wait for, or do you wait for, or are waiting for. That's an example here. So you just follow that example here. He needs, he is needing, he does need. He walks, he is walking, he does walk. Okay, exercise 6. The same thing, choose 3 ways to translate those. We live, we are living, we do live. And here's your language fact again. The infinitive ends in RE, and it comes after a verb that, excuse me, comes after a verb. I think I'll take another cough drop here. It comes after a verb that needs an infinitive to complete its meaning. For example, I want to eat. I love to swim. Those are called complementary infinitives. Like here from the story, we ought now to live with. You see the RE there? That's the infinitive. Okay, it explains what it is in English. It begins with the word to. And in Latin, it ends with the letters RE. Okay, let me come down here. And you get exercise 7. Translate the infinitive and tell the conjugation. Well, they're all translated to walk, to have, to tell. And this would be first because it has a, second, first, second, second. And then it talks about subject and verb agreement here. If the subject is singular, the verb's singular. We have this in English too. If the subject's plural, like you would have here, the girls tell stories, then your verb's going to be plural. See the N before the T here? So there you go. All right. And I hope you can see that clearly. And he says, he's exercise 8, make the verbs agree with the subjects. And they just put the infinitive here. For example, Messinio sees Millenium. So that'd be we det. Third person singular. And there you have it there. You can put we det in the middle if you want. And then you do these down here the same way. Just follow the example there. Okay, and they give exercise 9 here. Translate into Latin. We ought to wait, we debemus, to wait expectare. You have a complementary infinitive there. Same here. This is just a regular sentence. Nunc they see, we dent, patriam, direct object accusative case. I take care of, curo, one word. The daughters of the direct object, filiam, ends in an M because it's a direct object, first declension. A lot of exercises here, aren't there? Label each sentence as true or false if it disagrees with the Latin reading passage. So you would refer back to your translation for that. I don't think that's very challenging there. And here's your talking. And they do mention that there's a list of first names of Romans, and they were so common that they abbreviated them. L for Lucius, Q for Quintus, T for Titus. So that was their first name. And it talks about names in Latin. So you might want to read that just to get some background on the Roman names. And here's some conversational Latin here. And this is made up. We really don't know how Romans really interacted because we don't have any native Romans. So we try our best to put this together and to pronounce it as if we were Romans. Okay, but again, that's a whole different study to find out how Romans actually pronounce Latin. And there are people who pronounce it differently. And that's just the way it evolved. Okay, and I think that is about the end of chapter 2. And we got it. And I'm going to sign off now and do more screencasts as we approach each chapter. And these will appear on YouTube. If you're not allowed YouTube in school, just look at it at home when you have an internet connection.